Hey, good morning. Today's another one of our first fives. So today I've got a question that like many of you, I often find myself having some particular agenda for my day or agenda for what I want to get done. It's the plan I have for my own life. But one of the fascinating things about Jesus is Jesus invites us to follow him and to set aside our plans and our agendas. Now, it's possible that some of the things that we long for, he longs for the same thing for us and he invites us to participate in. But other times, what we find is our agenda, we really want it to trump what God has for us. And so we see this happening in Luke chapter 9, beginning with verse 57. As they were walking along the road, a man said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." He said to another man, "Follow me." But the man replied, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God." Still another said, "I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family." Jesus replied, "No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God." Now, at one level, this looks pretty harsh, right? It begins with Jesus saying, listen, we have no place to lay your head, so let's go. Then the next guy comes and says, "Let me bury my father." Well, the truth is, this guy's father either wasn't dead, because he would have already buried him if he was dead, or, which means he was just waiting for this guy to die, or the guy's dad had been dead a year, in which you go take the bones back out and you relocate them to a family grave. So he didn't do that either. So what he's saying is, hey, at some point, I'm all in on following you. Just let me take care of some other stuff first. The next person says, "Let me go back and say goodbye to my family." And we would think that that seems like a good thing, right? But Jesus' point here is kind of clear that if following me, if living your life for the sake of the kingdom of God is the most important thing in your life, then you'll have to recognize there will be times in which you say goodbye to things that are even good. And why is it that we sometimes find that whatever God's agenda might be for our life, whatever Jesus invites us to, this text has a subheading that just says the cost of following Jesus? You see, for many of us, we don't really count the cost. We don't realize that Jesus says, hey, I'm either Lord or I'm nothing. Either you're all in or you're out. But Jesus invites us here to say, hey, listen, if you will follow me, you will find your life to its fullest. You will find a hope that you've never known. You will find a reason for living that matters more than you've ever could have experienced before. Jesus invites us to a way of life that really is transformative. It is life-changing. It gives us purpose. It gives us hope. It gives us meaning. But if we're not careful, we can have our own agenda and our own plan, and we can miss the goodness that God has for us. And so what he says here, no one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the service in the kingdom of God. In other words, if we're all in, let's be all in. Let's make sure that nothing on the peripheral of our life has this much influence on us. Not politics, not even necessarily our family, not our job, but let's make sure that Jesus is primary and everything flows from that. And if we're not careful, we'll have our own agenda and we'll begin to push stuff in the middle of that, and we'll miss that Jesus is supposed to be first in our life. And then we'll find that all other things make sense outside of that. There's another text from Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 to 34, and it says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." In other words, if we'll seek Jesus first and his kingdom, everything else just seems to make sense. And so we're not worried about going back to bury our father, who may not even be dead. We're not worried about going to say goodbye to our family, because they already know we love them. We're not worried about where we're going to sleep, because we know God takes care of that. And so today, why don't you and I make sure we don't have some agenda that we're trying to give to God? And why don't we trust what God's agenda is for us? And I'll give you a hint. I think Matthew chapter 28 is helpful for us in these words: go and make disciples. So I think maybe if you and I are committed to that, we'll find that our agenda is God's agenda. And so let's find ourselves committed to that end. We hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you next time for another First Five.